Shut up and sit down.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to a very early morning time of day at Phoenix International Raceway for the Reddit iRacing League Season 23, Round 8. We have the Dallara DW12 Old Indy cars around this rather quick circuit for a 40-minute race. No cautions, just flat out racing, one pit stop. Qualifying's just wrapping up now. I am David Haynes. Alongside me in the commentary box, we have the one, the only, Aaron Thacker, and in the production booth, doing all of the buttons, Michael Derby. Qualifying has just wrapped up, so really quickly now, we're going to bring you our qualifying grid. Aaron, take it away.
Thank you, David. Very good to be back with everybody. Let's do a quick rundown of the good week. Have John Patrick in P1 with a blazing 19.9. Tim Winkoff, followed by Alex Albert, Andrew Fawcett, Rob Hopp, Alex Crawford, Nate Franklin, Jordan Babcock, Giovanni Romano, and Chris Fleming running out our top 10. Justin Lamans, Jolisha Milton. Jolisha, I apologize if I bombed that. Antonio Alvarez, Mark Antonucci, Daniel Bartz, our top 15. Justin Hall, Kyle Smith, Shane Cameron, Cody Dempster, Kyle Beeman, Philip Layden, Jay Sofignac, Aaron Lease, and Ryan Verhelst and Chester Thompson did not log a qualifying lap, David.
Yep, so that's 23 drivers with a qualifying time. We'll see how many we get on the grid. Could be as many as 25. And the laps come around very, very quickly here, seeing that pole time is underneath 20 seconds. It's a very, very quick times, and it is a fixed setup for this race today. So everyone in identical machinery, and John Patrick showing that his practice in these Indy cars has paid off. The only man underneath 20 seconds.
Yeah, that is some impressive work. This is a very difficult track. You've got three corners with a bit of a kink. David, I don't believe they actually consider that a corner, just an obstruction.
Certainly in these relatively high downforce cars, it's not much of an issue. It's getting through this first corner and getting a lot of good momentum and drive off the final corner that really matters. But the field are rolling now under the control of the pace car. One lap behind that car, it will pull off, and then John Patrick will have control of the field, and we'll start this 40-minute race with a fuel requirement of one pit stop. And also our drivers have one fast repair at their disposal, and from what we saw of practice, some might need it. This is not an easy beast to drive, especially in traffic.
Yeah, David, I was doing my best to kind of watch practice, and there's a very good chance that we're going to see some self-wrecking and outside wall collisions that we're coming up the start here.
And John Patrick gets on the gas very, very early, pulls a big lead. Let's have a look behind, though. They go side by side. Alex Albert will take second place away from Tim Winkoff. Looking further back in the pack, most everyone gotten away relatively cleanly. Another big jump. Jordan Babcock already up 3 spots. 2 wide all the way back in the pack. Rob Hopp is trying to fend off Giovanni Romano, and Christopher Flammy, poor run off the final corner, will lose out to Louisa Hamilton, who dives through very dense in the pack back there as well. These are not easy cars to drive in traffic with the amount of aero disturbance that all of the aerodynamic devices push off. Laps flying along. There are already a few on the board and coming along at a 19.947 is the most recent lap for John Patrick. So he's setting the pace once again, pulling himself nearly a second lead over Alex Albert in second, who's then got that gap to Tim Winkoff. It's very, very close behind that, though. And Rob Hopp, who lost 2 spots off the start, making another one back off Nate Franklin.
David, I'm just at a quick down call to the pits. Unfortunately, we have Chris Fleming and Justin Lemons already in the pits. I did not see an incident on track, David, and just as we kind of talked about at the start of the race, there's going to be some self-wall tapping here, and I believe we already have 2 people that have claimed that type of incident.
Yeah, precisely. Oh, there's a wreck for Giovanni Romano and Alex Coffard on the front stretch. That might be Jordan Babcock also involved with that. That's those 3 cars all taking heavy damage, and Justin Babcock's car will have to be towed. He cannot bring that around. So already 5 cars on the pit lane. We're not even 3 minutes in yet. If it's not the other cars that they hit, trying to carry the momentum through the corners, then it's the outside wall. And I think, so we might get a replay of that one. We'll see that that's probably how that incident started. I'm seeing it as maybe Tim Weinkoff has just gotten down too low to the apron in the final corner, got a big old tank slapper on, and that's how he's caught up Alex Coffard and Jordan Babcock in that incident, who came at the scene of the crash at great speed and had nowhere to go, no reaction times for that. So not only the outside wall dangerous, but also collecting the apron down low at speed looks like it can also unsettle the car.
Yeah, David, I was going to say the same thing. Jordan Babcock, you couldn't have pushed on the brakes any harder without locking them up, but then unfortunately he found himself part of the incident and doing a beautiful aerial pirouette, might I add. That is an unfortunate incident. Hopefully he's going to grab himself a quick repair and get back out there and hopefully claw off back 5 or 6 more spots. It's tough to see at the start of the race for Jordan.
So looking on board here with 4th place, Rob Hopp. And he is maybe looking for a podium position in this race, trying to chase down Andrew Fawcett, who is some gap back now from Alex Albert in 2nd. A little pack here for 3rd place. Andrew Fawcett leads Rob Hopp, leads Nate Franklin, leads Giovanni Romano. Some of your closest action on track here, and we see Rob Hopp just suffering a little bit of understeer through the first corner. That happens as the tires wear out and as you follow closely in the disturbed air of the car ahead. You just lose that aerodynamic efficiency on the front wing. You lose that ability to throw the car into the corner at speed. We see Rob Hopp's trying to take a different line, trying to avoid some of that dirty air, but just cannot seem to get close enough to Andrew Fawcett holding on to 3rd place.
Yeah, David, back to your point about the aero push and just the overall stability of these cars. This racetrack absolutely takes that right front tire and has it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I think these guys are coming in for fuel. It's going to be a difficult strategy call, but David, I think you really have to take tires in order to make through this race without pretty much the car getting away from you, don't you think?
Yeah, depending on what the pit lane delta is even, you might almost consider 2 stopping this on tires or something potentially. No cautions, so maybe that's not a valid strategy here today in this race, but you definitely think about the tires a lot in a car like this. Not particularly heavy, lots of downforce, really works them hard, and Rob Hopp nearly taps the wall on the outside of turn 1, just stays out of it. But that's what these guys will be fighting in the slipstream. And Nate Franklin, 5th place, up 2 spots. He's looking for 3rd as well.
Yeah, David, I actually just saw my first wall contact. Justin Hall did clip the wall coming out of turn 4, and Justin Hall is unfortunately dropping like a rock. And David, he just hit the wall again. This is tough for Justin Hall.
Yep, so Kyle Never Lift Smith gets through. Someone's around. I think that's Jordan Babcock again. So Kyle Never Lift Smith leads Brian Beeman, leads Justin Hall, leads and Philip Linden in there as well. That's a great battle going on here. 10th place through to 14th, all under a blanket, as we say. None of them having taken their pit service yet. probably going to drag those tires out, but Kyle is coming under a lot of threat now from Brian Beeman, who gets his nose right up to that rear wing, but in doing so collects the dirty air. And is that Philip Linden potentially? I know it's Alex Coffard a lap down or some, who's trying to make his way through, presumably on fresher tires, trying to get a lap back.
Yeah, David, we now have, you are correct about earlier, Jordan Babcock is in the pits, and Justin Hall is also in the pits. So two unfortunate instances. David, let's go back to the action up the front where you're watching there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the second trip to the pit lane for Jordan Babcock. He's already used his fast repair, so he'll be on that pit lane for some time if, in fact, he does get back out on track. Justin Hall still has a second chance potentially, but looking at this here, Kyle Smith is just starting to pull that gap on Brian Beeman, but where the action is still third, fourth, and fifth, because Andrew Ford is leading that. And Nate Franklin's getting close to Rob Hopp, but somewhere along the lines, Alex Albert has taken the lead away from John Patrick and is now trying to make that a 1 second gap. I'm not 100% sure what's happened for JP Doublebeard from Texas, but from a very commanding pole position and a very strong race start, he's now holding second place. And Alex Albert, the recent birthday boy, leading this race, and the gap now 3/4 of a second, closing down a little bit, but all this time John Patrick's tires will not be getting any better in that dirty air.
David, I just did a quick look back. Justin Hall may have had avoidance of the race. He avoided a massive two-car incident in front of him at the start-finish line, and that is why he had a massive checkup, and which is why Alex Albert absolutely flew by him and now has almost a 7/10 second gap. So massive save from John Patrick in order to keep himself in the race, David, but that is why he has found himself in P2.
All right, well, he's closed some of that gap back now, only a couple tenths, but as he gets closer and closer on those already used tires, it will not be easy to get that pass done. I think as they get longer on a tire stint, the harder passing becomes. So third place now, Andrew Fawcett, still got that gap over Robert Hopp, Nate Franklin there, maybe another battle out there, 7th, 8th, 9th, Luisha Milton, Antonio Alvarez, and Daniel Bartz. Have a look there, and Milton under a lot of pressure there from Antonio Alvarez, who gets right up underneath, tries to carry a lot more speed off the corner with a later apex. They're gonna go too wide coming into the last corner, and wow, look at that overspeed around the outside by Alvarez. Great driving there, and he's gonna take away 7th place and then set his sights forward potentially on Giovanni Romano in 6th, because that gap now down to under a second as well. Milton's dropping some speed here because Mark Antonucci is not on the same lap. So now Daniel Bart's dropping back a little bit off that one. Alvarez going to try and close that gap up to 6th place Giovanni Romano.
Yeah, David, we're watching. Oh, get a spin on the front stretch.
That is Aaron Lees from New Zealand. So plenty of good history of Kiwis in IndyCar, but unfortunately not working out for Aaron Lees there, who's just gotten the rear end loose in the final corner, not been able to correct it, and slammed the nose into the inside wall on the front stretch. A lot of damage on that car as we get a replay of exactly how that happened. Didn't see him clip the apron like we saw for some other drivers getting them loose in that last corner. I don't know, maybe just too aggressive getting the throttle down.
Yeah, David, that was just a bit self-induced. Get a little excited, coming to start-finish line, and just lost a bit. David, I'm sticking with this battle between Giovanni Romano and Antonio Alvarez. And Dave, this is fascinating. I'm riding with Antonio, and they're taking two completely different lines around this racetrack. Antonio's staying really, really high. I don't know if he has a different tire strategy. And versus you got Giovanni Romano, who's hugging the bottom. But this is a fantastic battle to watch here. But look at this corner here. Look how far he goes up, and then he chops back down and gets a fantastic run here. But David, I really worry with so aero dependent these cars are on this track. Is Antonio doing his tires any favor by staying this close to Giovanni for this long? I feel like he's going to have to make a decision here pretty quick, and I think he's going to do it.
Yeah, so he's going to dive to the inside this time. Romano will stay high, and in doing that, Luisha Milton tries to come through, doesn't quite make it work, but I think that's almost job done for Antonio Alvarez. He's going to have to defend through the final corner. And I have to say, look, maybe he is doing his tyres some favours by taking a different line when he's following in the dirty air of the car ahead. Maybe in doing that higher line, he doesn't scrub the tyres as hard on entry, and it's definitely working for him because he's getting these passes done. And we say it time and time again, maybe he's not the strongest qualifier, but you can always trust Antonio Alvarez to try and make some spots up in the race, and do that he has, because he's up 7 spots now. He's not struggling to get the passes done, and now he's got his sights set on Nate Franklin.
Yeah, he does have his sights set on Nate Franklin, and Nate Franklin is doing himself a heck of a job navigating some very difficult lap traffic as he's doing his best to keep up with Andrew Fawcett and Ryan Hopp up here. Oh, and they've made contact. Big accident with Andrew Fawcett. Oh, my goodness.
Let's take a look quickly at that one. What's gone on there?
David, I apologize. That was an incorrect call. That was an incident with Ryan Hopp with some lap traffic, but it looks like he has some damage now for Ryan Hopp. That is really unfortunate.
Yeah, so how I'm seeing that there is Rob Hopp was a car on the lead lap.
David, I apologize. That Nate Franklin has just spun. Nate Franklin has just spun in the kink, and he has extensive damage. He was running P6 now. Oh, my goodness. This is a guaranteed pit for Nate Franklin.
Yeah, indeed, a huge amount of damage on that sort of Jordan F1 inspired paint scheme for Nate Franklin. So what's happened? I think he's just been too eager on the throttle, or maybe tapped the outside wall there, and then he's found the inside wall in a very hard hit, and that has indeed given Antonio Alvarez another spot. And through all of that, he's managed to get past Rob Hopp as well, who we mentioned lapped down Justin Hall, who had some fresher tires on. So Antonio Alvarez now up 9 spots, and Nate Franklin spinning it on his way into the pit lane. So he'll manage to get that car fixed. He'll get back out, but Nate Franklin's hopes of a top 5 fading rather quickly.
Yeah, David, we're continuing to watch this, and of the 25 cars on the grid, David, everybody but the top 10 have had a moment or some sort of pit incident. So I think this is going to be a race of preserve your fast repairs, because you're going to need a few. Because, David, we're only so many laps into this race, roughly 42 of 115 laps. Time to be conservative, boys. Slow it down.
Yeah, exactly. So 15 minutes into this 40-minute race. In 5 minutes' time, we'll be at the halfway. And without thinking of any particularly clever strategy, maybe that's when some of these drivers will take their pit stop, try and cut the race in half, and keep a good fresh set of tires for the end, but also taking the stop early enough to potentially get some undercut. Kind of person that could favor is someone like John Patrick, who hasn't really been able to make any inroads at Alex Albert. But third place, my goodness, I think Andrew Fawcett under some pressure now from Antonio Alvarez, now up 9 spots. So qualifying around 15th on the grid, and now hoping to get himself on the podium. A fantastic run there. The battle continues for 5th, 6th, and 7th as well. So Rob Hopp, potentially a little bit of aero tweak on his car. Still running reasonable lap times, a 10th or some off the leaders. He's got Giovanni Romano some distance back, who's under pressure from Luisha Milton. But the purple and Canada car of Giovanni Romano now only half a second clear of Louisa Milton, who just can't seem to close the rest of that gap up in the draft. And I think that's what Antonio Alvarez has going for him, is he gets close to these other cars and then runs those different lines, is able to make something work, to carry some momentum, to do something different than the car ahead and bridge that final gap that's just so difficult to do, and carrying the momentum through the corners in that, I want to say, dirty air. It feels like I've said that every second lap.
I think you have too, David. And it looks like we have our first non-incident scheduled pit stop. Car number 21, Tim Weinkoff. He is in. He has gone up for tires. He's likely in for fuel. And David, from what I know, Tim has raced himself a clean race. So this appears to be a scheduled pit stop for the car number 21.
No, potentially not. This is his second time down onto the pit road, and I think he was involved in an earlier incident in the race, significantly down the order in 17th, now 18th place, unfortunately for him. Here could be an opportunity for Louisa Milton, as Giovanni Romano has to check up a little bit for some lap traffic. It's not going to be the difference this time, as Louisa Milton can't follow through it with any overspeed through that.
Yeah, David, our top pack up here, these boys are getting crowded. It's dealing with some lap traffic. But, yeah, David, as you keep kind of mentioning here, I think our top 10 have all – is there anybody that's gained less than 5 positions from their starting spot? And there's been a lot of opportunistic driving with some very early incidents with a vast majority of the field.
Certainly anyone who's had a clean race so far, no matter where they started on the grid, would be up some positions. And I think I'm seeing what could be the first of our proper green flag stops. Kyle Smith just coming down onto the pit lane. No damage on that car. He's just taking new tires and the fuel needed to get to the end. That's definitely an undercut strategy from Kyle Smith. So we'll see how that works out for him later in the race when everyone else has fresher tires. But if he was stuck up in some traffic, if he was having trouble getting through the lapped cars on his older tires, because the lapped cars might do what they can to let you go, but they can't do anything to not send dirty air your way. So you got to be careful passing those lapped cars. The disturbed air doesn't care what position you're in. It's going to damage your aerodynamics regardless. So Kyle Smith maybe just hoping for a big undercut on those fresh tires. You see that the leaders, Alex Albert just did a 21-second lap, and we know that on fresh tires a 20.2 is possible. So Kyle Smith has maybe just a 5-lap undercut and he can pull half a second a lap on each of those laps. That's a fair chunk he can take out, especially if any of his competition start to struggle.
David, I have just watched. Yeah, David, I was just going to report on another incident. We had Andrew Fawcett with a spin, and David, I just took a ride with Nate Franklin. He has taken 2 spins, hit the wall again, David, and I have a strong feeling that Nate Franklin may be coming in for a pasture pair, or may just say, you know what, I'm going to head to the pub.
Either of them sound like a rather appealing option. So we've got some more pit stops coming in. So Alex Albert from the lead has decided no one's going to undercut me. We're at the halfway point of the race. Let's whack a new set of tires on from here. So in the pits is Alex Albert, John Patrick, Andrew Fawcett, of course, now losing some positions, but he's on the pit lane as well. So staying out is Antonio Alvarez, Rob Hopp, Giovanni Romano. And so now Antonio inherits the race lead as John Patrick has also come down onto the lane. So a couple of different pit strategies, but I imagine everyone out there knows how hard those tires are working, and they're probably hoping that the window would open so they could put a new set of tires on, get some relief, and they just toughed it out until now. Couple more guys. So now Giovanni Romano takes to the pit lane, as does Rob Hopp. Halfway point. What a fantastic time to cut the race in half, put the new set of tires on, take that amount of fuel, and there'll be some guys taking it out a little later now who'll have fresher tires at the end. What has the undercut done for Kyle Smith? not a whole lot. I think he was relatively by himself when he came into the pits. What'll be interesting to see is how Alex Albert, JP cycle out. JP, I think, no, John Patrick has, through all of the pit cycle, lost a couple seconds to Alex Albert. So now the rest of the field come onto the pit lane. So Antonio Alvarez, Daniel Bartz, only person yet to pit now, Luisha Milton.
Yeah, Dave, that was a fantastic stint by Antonio Alvarez. As I kind of pointed out at the start of the race, he was running a bit of a different line than everybody else, and I don't know if he was getting any sort of tire savings out of that. The car was just rotating better with this fixed setup, but that was a heck of a drive by Antonio in this opening stint here. And man, I hope he's going to come out and put himself back in another very opportunistic spot, David. But man, what a first stint by Antonio.
Yeah, exactly. It's possible he might come out in third place from the pits. That's that's how I see it now. So a great opening stint, gaining some positions, and now he's stayed out a little bit longer than everyone else. He's going to have some fresher tires, but I'm not sure if that alone will be enough to close the gap to our leaders, Alex Albert and John Patrick. The gap there now down to 1.5 seconds, as somewhere John Patrick on the last laps managed to pull 0.6 out of Alex Albert. That's now stabilized a little bit, but certainly either of those guys could win this race. And Antonio Alvarez, I'll take back what I said, only 8 seconds off the lead with tires that are 5 laps fresher. And we saw what he can do cutting through the traffic, through some of the lapped down cars. 17 minutes is plenty enough time for Antonio to get up to those leaders if he can demonstrate the pace and cunning in traffic that he had in that first stint.
Yeah, we got to be super careful, David. You keep mentioning the traffic. Ryan Verhulst for P7 and P8 are really battling traffic. But, David, I also witnessed an incident exiting the pits. Shane Cameron had a massive incident exiting the pits, causing himself yet to re-enter the pits. So, David, traffic is becoming so crucial this part. Lots of these guys are taking fast repairs, repairing their car, but we're hitting some very difficult traffic at this point. And as these guys continue to wear the tires, the car just doesn't turn like it wants to. But this battle between Ryan Verhulst and Andrew Fawcett, there is no tire savings going on between what these two guys are doing right now.
No, none whatsoever. A great 3-car scrap here. Ryan Verhulst leads Andrew Fawcett, who just tried to sneak his way through, didn't make it work, and that cost him a little bit of time, brought Giovanni Romano into this battle. But once again, Fawcett gets a good run down the front stretch. Can't do much with it in the first turn, or can he? Cuts back underneath very well, gets the power down early. And coming towards the final corner, he'll stay a little bit higher. He'll try and get a run on the outside of Ryan Verhulst. And they'll go side by side, cross the stripe into turn 1. Verhulst dives into the corner with a bit more momentum on, but Fawcett manages to get the power down fantastic on the exit. Grabs that spot, now in 6th. Giovanni Romano will look at Ryan Verhulst and think, here's an easy meal, because I think there's a little bit of damage on the front right wing of Ryan Verhulst. Could have done that on another car, could have done that on the outside wall. Both would be very easy. And a lot of traffic there for them as well. Justin Lamans, Philip Linden, and these guys get through that very cleanly. Good job by Fawcett, Verhulst, and Romano.
Yeah, David, I was going to say Giovanni, he missed a bit of an opportunity to work some traffic to his advantage to possibly get by Ryan Verhulst, but I think caution was probably the better approach that time around, because he really had a chance when Ryan went really wide in a failed attempt on Andrew Fawcett. But Giovanni's falling back now, and I think everybody's going to catch their breaths and probably cool some tires down and let's fall back in line, guys, and keep the racing clean and steady.
Yeah, and so here's third place Antonio Alvarez working his way through to put these guys a lap down. This is costing his lap times. That gap from him up to the lead is extending right now because he just can't quite put the laps down, the lap times through, cutting through this traffic. So he'll look to the inside of Ryan Verhulst And I think that might, doesn't quite work this time. Ryan Verhulst holds the outside, might lift a little bit into the final corner potentially. Giovanni Romano trying to get through there as well. He takes a much lower line through the final corner, but it doesn't help him get a much better run. What can he do through turn one? Verhulst stays a little bit high. Romano goes low. We'll try and get the throttle open earlier. He's close, but not quite with a run this time. Verhulst dives lower through the final corner as they put Justin Hall a lap down. Confused me for a second there because Hall's running the same paint scheme as Fawcett. So Romano now out of the final corner, won't get the power down quite well enough, or will he? Looks to the inside of Verhulst, and move done from Romano. Is there a fuel problem or something for Verhulst going very slow coming onto the pit lane for what will be his second stop? Did he pit earlier and not manage to fit enough fuel in to get to the end? Whatever the case is, the battle is heating up for the lead. Alex Albert came out of the pit stops with a lead over John Patrick of about 1.5 seconds, maybe 2 seconds. But John Patrick's a bit of an oval specialist, I think. Very much a fan of these open wheel Indy cars. Maybe not so much the older model, but he's clawed this gap down to 7/10 now. And he's with maybe 38 laps, 12 minutes to go. He would dearly love a Reddit iRacing League win.
I think he would too, David, but he's about to run into some very slow cars. He's got the white car on the outside there. He's coming up to Justin Hall, who's been having a very unfortunate race, and so he's really having to work in some traffic here and working up on the wheel. David, it's so interesting to see how many different lines these guys are taking at this point. I think there's plenty of rubber on the track, and as the sun comes up and the track heats, things are probably getting a bit slippery out there. So you're probably going, imagine the exit of the corner, David, you're probably 80-90%. I don't know when you're going to go full throttle right now, because it just seems like a really dangerous idea in some of these corners where you would normally be able to keep it flat.
Yeah, and you're exactly right about the weather. So it was an early morning time of day here. The sun getting higher and higher in the Phoenix sky. The track temperature is rising, maybe 5 or 10 degrees Fahrenheit from when we started the race. Not huge amounts, but these guys will feel that, especially as their tyres also wear out. The grip out there isn't quite what it was at the start of the race.
Yeah, David, it looks like John Patrick is just going to play himself the long game here. We've still got a little over 11 minutes left in this race, and I think both these guys know that their tires and the track is going to change a lot in these next 11 minutes, and not to mention there's going to be some traffic as we look just down the road entering a turn one. Alex Albert, he's seen at least 3 cars in front of him, and they are running exponentially faster than them, roughly about 1.5 seconds faster. So, David, they're going to catch these guys quick. I think John Patrick is thinking about an opportunistic strategy of Alex Albert maybe going a little too aggressive, making some of these passes, or maybe he's waiting for Alex to push too hard and ruin his tires. But at the same time, John Patrick's got to push too, because Alex Albert is always quick, and you don't want to leave back too much.
Big accident for Dan Bartz. Big accident for Daniel Bartz just then behind our leaders. Just coming out of the final corner, holding the throttle pinned, the rear slid a little bit. And similar to, I think, what Aaron Lease did, just couldn't stop it from turning into the inside wall. So potentially race over or buried deep down the order for Dan Bartz.
Oh my gosh, David, yeah, I watched that incident. He hit it right as the corner transitioned back on the straight line. The rear tires just gave up, and that was the end of that lap for Bartz.
So we'll get a replay of how that happened to him. Unfortunate for Daniel Bartz, who was running rather well, potentially around the top 5. So if he's still got a fast repair available to him, he'll get that car back out on track, and he's certainly not the only driver to have had some issues. So if he can persevere, there's still something to be gained for him, but not how you'd want to do it. The lead is as close as it's ever been, down under 2/10. Alex Albert gets a poor run off turn 1 with some traffic in front of him. John Patrick taking all the advantage he can. He's using Alex Albert to cut through the traffic, and then JP is taking the line through, getting the better momentum off the corners sometime. Every time that they approach cars that are off the lap, that they need to put a lap down, it always costs the leader more than it costs second place. So JP gets a fantastic run off the final corner, brings the gap down to 1.5 tenths, but can't do anything about it through turn 1. But he's well and truly embedded himself in the mirrors of Alex Albert, who's got to put Brian Beeman a lap down. Beeman stays high in the final corner, lets both of the leaders through. Good job by him. A fair treatment to both, but still it's not easy for Alex Albert, who gets the dirty air approaching that traffic. He's done it expertly this time, pushed the gap out to 4 tenths, but also a battle for 5th and 6th. So Giovanni Romano, I think, is caught up to Andrew Fawcett. That gap a little bit further than what it looked on my timing screen, maybe closer to a second, but on the lap before, Romano did take 4 tenths out of Andrew Fawcett for what's 5th place. So a top 5 finish is what's at stake for these guys. And the new tyres advantage is slightly to Giovanni Romano, but only by 2 laps. How they've treated that in the 30 laps since they've come out of the pits, certainly the older tyres could be in better condition if Andrew Fawcett's been kind to them.
Yeah, David, I just did a quick pop-in on our good friend Antonio Alvarez. He's kind of by himself. He's got a pretty cozy ride here in P3. John Patrick is a little over 8 seconds in front of him, and he's got a nice gap to Luisha Milton. David, our Dick Insider award, is Antonio going to put another trophy on the shelf tonight with the drive he is currently completing?
Yeah, exactly. That Dick Insider Hard Charger of the Race award goes to the driver with the most positions gained, but we can't give it to a driver with the most positions gained who didn't set a qualifying time. So Ryan Verhulst, the Minnesota Menace, no qualifying time from him starting from the back of the grid. He's up 16 spots. Yeah. And as I mentioned him, an issue for him. So we'll get a replay of that. That car is well and truly toast. I think he's just come into the first corner too hot, tried to keep the throttle buried, tapped that outside wall. That sent him around into the inside wall, straight into the concrete. No tires, no safer barrier there, and no mercy from the inside wall. A very, very damaged looking Dallara. So that's, well, the 3rd trip to pit lane for Ryan Verhulst. So I think that's race over for him, unfortunately. So he was up 17 positions. That's what I was going to say, that he was up a lot of spots, but not eligible for the hard charger. So Antonio Alvarez is up 10. That's a fantastic effort to put himself into a podium position. But Brian Beeman is up 13. So as things stand right now with 6 minutes to go, I think Brian Beeman is in fact our Dick Insider hard charger of the race as it stands right now.
Yeah, the hard charge of the race, but David, the hard charging action remains in the battle for P1 and P2 versus John Patrick and Alex Albert. These two are not leaving each other alone. They've got to be reaching a point now where those tires are a bit scary. The car probably feels okay. John Patrick is, in my opinion, in a little more of a dangerous spot because he's going to need to make a move, but David, he no longer has the tires under him to receive any aero push and have any confidence in the corner. So he's going to have to do something very clever, possibly make Alex Albert overdrive the car, maybe a forced error, because it's going to get very difficult here with right at 5 minutes remaining.
Yeah, precisely. These guys now starting about the 43rd lap on these tyres, and every time they throw it into turn 1, every time they try and get the power down off the final corner, plenty of horsepower from the turbocharged engines in these cars, plenty of downforce to make those tyres work. They scream out in agony through these banked corners. So they just the punishment they receive from the high speeds, from the banking, from all of the downforce. And as you say, John Patrick's been in that he's been tucked up in the dirty air behind Alex Albert almost since those pit stops. There's no way he's preserved those tires better than Alex Albert. He's going to need to stick close as he can and hope that some traffic or something puts off Alex Albert and he can take an opportunistic grab.
Yeah, David, I think we're going to take just a quick snapshot away from the lead here because Giovanni Romano has put himself within 0.3 of Andrew Fawcett battling for that P5 position. And right as we were talking about, and Giovanni, he really wants to get in there, but David, he gets a bit too close and the whole front end washes out with no tires and not enough arrows. So I don't know if Giovanni can make the move here, but Donald, he's going to try.
Yeah, again, he's trying some slightly different lines from the car ahead. Nothing too radical, but just trying to chop the corner off a little bit, maybe get a later apex to get the throttle open earlier. Fawcett in front of him gets balked a little bit by some lap traffic, but I think the treatment was pretty equal. And has something happened to Alex Albert? I'm seeing him in third place. A lot of damage on that car. Indeed, a problem for he was our race leader. Take a look at that one. It was out of the final corner. He's just gotten in. Oh, he's tapped the apron down the bottom of the corner, given him a big wiggle, and he's had no room to save that before he's clocked the outside wall. And patient Patrick has done exactly what he needed to do to inherit the race lead. Second place now is Antonio Alvarez. Luisha Milton grabs third. And Alex Albert, a lot of damage on that car. Did he save a fast repair? I don't think so, because he's still out there. A lot of damage on that car, just trying to crawl to the finish. I don't think he's going to be able to get to the finish as it stands with the damage on that car. Heartbreak for Alex Albert, leading laps and laps in this race. Until a small mistake, tiny tap of the yellow line down the bottom of the final corner, big wiggle, couldn't catch it, smacked it into the outside wall, and that's
David, we have a spin. We have a spin for P5. Giovanni Romano has gone around in an attempt into the kink to try and pass Andrew Fawcett. Giovanni Romano has avoided the wall, but David, we have another spin. His tires are going away.
A beautiful 360 pirouette. Is just gotten on the throttle too early on the low side, trying to make that pass.
David, I hate to break again. Luisha Milton has also spun in the straightaway, David. She was in P3, and she has too much damage. She's now also in the pits, David.
My goodness. So as we get just within the last minute and a half of this race, the track heating up, the marbles potentially getting laid down, and the tires wearing out, and no one can hold onto it. So your order as they stand right now, John Patrick leads from Antonio Alvarez up 11 spots to second place. Andrew Fawcett grabs a third place as it stands right now with the problems for Luisha Milton and Alex Albert. Giovanni Romano, thankfully no damage from his beautiful 360 pirouette, so he's got fourth place. I think Daniel Bartz, who had some problems earlier, some damage, had to take some repairs, grabs fifth place. And I think there will only be a couple of laps left as we're now within the last minute. And for some of these drivers struggling out there, I don't think that checkered flag can come soon enough. Andrew Fawcett's going slowly, maybe trying to conserve some fuel or something. I don't see damage on that car. Just see him going very slowly, potentially spluttering. So maybe he doesn't want to take third place. Does anyone want to win today?
David, this is absolutely chaotic. David, I back to the quick incident with Luisha. Alex Albert actually was just trying to keep control of the car. Luisha went to avoid Alex Albert on the front stretch, subsequently causing her to contact the wall. So very difficult incident for both those drivers. I know they're both trying to finish, but that was a tough incident.
Clock as John Patrick comes out of the last corner. This is the last lap. There was 1 second left, so the white flag waves. John Patrick from Texas, who stood on pole position, lost that lead, but is the last man standing as everyone finds ways to throw away their race. So out of the final corner, checkered flag now in the air, but John Patrick is the winner. Season 23, round 8, Dallara IndyCars at Phoenix. Antonio Alvarez nearly a flawless drive except for qualifying, grabs second place. Giovanni Romano will grab that position from Andrew Fawcett right at the end, who I think ran out of fuel, getting his fuel numbers wrong. Fawcett still holds on to 4th position as I see it though, and Dan Bartz will grab 5th spot. Wow, what a finish to that race. We lost some of the battles that we had, but then no one could keep it on the track.
My goodness, David, I'm right with you there. It was hard. You couldn't change the camera views fast enough. But David, we congratulations to the podium. But I think we also want to say congratulations to everyone who finished the race. David, we had 11 cars able to finish this race of the 25 to grid. And David, this is a very difficult combination on this track, but that was a lot of fun, David. Let's get some podium people to talk to them, because we have some questions.
Yep, so first of all, we will run down our finishing order. So as we already said, John Patrick from pole position didn't lead every lap, but ran a flawless race to be the winner here at Phoenix. Second place, Antonio Alvarez. Third place, Giovanni Romano, just keeping it clean and taking enough fuel, which wasn't the case for Andrew Fawcett, who still holds on to 4th place. 5th, Daniel Bart. 6th goes to Brian Beeman. 7th in the end goes to Louisa Milton. 8th is Shane Cameron. 9th, Justin Lamans. And 10th, Alex Albert, who stuck the car out there for 10 laps with a lot of damage on it. Maybe Louisa Milton won't be happy with that, but Alex Albert, 10th place. 11th goes to Mark Antonucci. 12th is Philip Linden. 13th is Ryan Verhulst. 14th, Justin Hall. 15th is Rob Hopp. 16th, and significant laps down, Kyle Smith. 17th is Nate Franklin. We're getting into the retirements here, as 18th is Christopher Flamian. 19th, Tim Weinkoff. 20th, Alex Coffard. 21st, Aaron Leese from New Zealand, making a rare appearance and unfortunately not going his way in the 666 car, number of the crash. 22nd is Cody Dempster. 23rd, Jordan Babcock. 24th, Jay Safianiak. And 26th, I don't think Chester Thompson took the start. So if you've managed to find any drivers for us to have a word with, Aaron, let's see who we can get.
Absolutely, David. I'm scanning the quick field here. Let's find ourselves Antonio.
Up there.
Go
our
ahead,
winner is up there, but I don't have the powers to drag him down.
David, unfortunately, I am also having an issue opening the door to the podium box here. Hopefully, we can get some assistance.
So John Patrick is named John and with a red emoji thing. And so we do in fact now have our race winner, John Patrick. First of all, I've got to ask you, how tough is it out there on those old tires with the heating track? Because it looked like no one wanted to stay on the circuit and no one else wanted to finish.
Sorry, I didn't catch the last part of what you said there, but it got kind of tricky. I felt like the car was going to want to get loose. So I definitely didn't want that to happen, because it's very hard to catch a slide in these downforce cars. But it was pretty tricky. The main thing was just traffic. I was hoping to just pull away and win it, but then there was a big wreck in front of me and I had to slow down, and Alex got by. But yeah, pretty happy with the result.
Now, I know you're a man who likes these open-wheel Indy cars around the oval racing. So when you saw that this was on the schedule with the Dallara DW12 at Phoenix, did you think maybe you had a shot at the victory?
I'd liked to think, but I didn't want to, count my chickens before they hatch or anything, because anything can happen with traffic, and not everybody is super experienced with these cars. And personally, I'm not the best person under pressure, so I was just hoping for the win, but I wasn't counting on anything.
And for a long time, you were following Alex Albert there, and it looked like you just didn't have the tires or anything to be able to make a move. Was there anything you could have done if he hadn't run into trouble?
I really don't think so. It's so hard with the downforce. The turbulent air on these cars, you can get close, but not that close. So I was kind of just hoping that he'd get held up by a lap car that didn't know what they were doing or something like that.
Well, I'm not fully across all of the history of Reddit iRacing League. This isn't a maiden win for you, is it?
It is. It's my first ever Reddit iRacing League win.
Well, congratulations to you on your first win in this league, and hold your head high because you ran a very good race, solid strategy, and in the end, no one else could keep it on the track, but you did, so well done.
Thanks. Good talking to you guys.
Right, so our winner there, John Patrick. Let's see if we can maybe grab someone else. I did see Antonio was kicking around the paddock, so we'll see if we can get a word with him, our second place finisher. Antonio, up 11 spots from your qualifying. Good job.
Yeah, that was a good race, better than expected. It's very tricky to pass here.
We were watching you, and you were very good at taking different lines through the corners when you were following someone else. You made a lot more passes out there than some other people. Was that the secret to it, going high when they go low when they go high?
Well, most of the time they go low, so to try to avoid that dirty air, especially in 1 and 2, I went high, and that gave me a good corner exit speed, so that worked pretty well.
And time again, we see you qualifying a little bit down the order, but having a good race and picking up lots of positions gained. Are you sure you're giving it your best effort in qualifying?
Evident. It's not my best effort. Is overcooking it every time. This time I tried to get a good exit for the second lap and then immediately in the wall. So yeah, this season is not my quali season, I guess.
Well, certainly it's a lot more fun to start a little bit down the order and make some good moves than it would be to qualify well and then drop like a stone. We saw it was very difficult out there on old tyres. Lots of people making little mistakes. How did you keep your focus over the 40 minutes?
Well, trying to avoid dirt air certainly helps, but in practice I did a longer run, and that gave me good feedback for the race. So I didn't have many problems with the tires.
All right. Well, congratulations to you. Second place is very solid points haul, and you can be proud of standing on the podium. Anyone you want to thank while we have you?
Well, I don't know really. Just happy for the race. Thank you for everybody that makes this race possible.
All right, short to the point, and I like it. Congratulations, and hopefully we'll see you out again soon in the Reddit iRacing League. We do also have third place finisher Giovanni Romano around. See if we can grab him, and maybe Aaron will have a word with third place finisher Giovanni Romano.
Giovanni, welcome to the commentating booth, and congratulations on a very strong P3 from a P9 qualifying position. How did it feel out there? It looked like it was a good time and also pretty scary.
Scary describes it pretty much perfectly. I was scared the entire time. My primary goal was not hit the wall, and I did that, but I made a few other mistakes along the way. I don't know how I lucked into third, but I guess just keeping it out of the wall worked out.
Give us some idea of what it was like towards the end of the race. What were you having to do with the throttle in order to maintain the car? Number one, going in a straight line and maintaining any sort of speed. I mean, how much of a difference was when you had clean air and no clean air towards the end there?
Well, at the beginning of the stint in clean air, it's maybe a little lift for the first turn, and then that's about it. But as the stint goes on, it gets more and more sketchy, and you have to back down a little more, especially for turn one. And I actually looped it there with about 5 minutes left. So I'm probably not the best coach for not for managing the tires. So.
Yeah, I think, and also to the transition from turn 4 to the start finish, we saw a lot of just self spins there. Why is that section so difficult?
Well, if you clip the apron, that disturbs the balance of the car and will immediately loop you. And then also as the tires go off, it will there's a higher chance of getting a little oversteer there as well.
Got it. Well, Giovanni, thank you for checking in with us tonight, sir. Congratulations on a P3. Anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out for this excellent drive by you tonight?
Yeah, thanks to you guys for the broadcast and the admins for running the race in the series.
Thank you. We'll love seeing you out there. We'll love seeing you drive, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week, Giovanni.
Yeah, I'm buying Barber just for next week, so new track should be fun.
Thank you.
Well, that leads us into a great point. This is round 8 done of this 9-round season. So it all comes down to the final round next week, the Skip Barber at Barber. That feels somewhat fitting. So the championship decider will go down to open wheel cars again, but a little less horsepower, a little less grip, and around a road course. Looking at the point standings as they came into this race, Giovanni Romano could definitely be a contender for the title. It all does depend on the drop weeks. But I hope you've enjoyed the coverage we brought you here of round 8 of the Reddit iRacing League from Phoenix. We hope to join you again soon here on Team Huge Ass YouTube. Please do subscribe, because next week we will be bringing you coverage of the season finale here of the Reddit iRacing League. I'm David Haynes. Joining me was Aaron Thacker, and doing a great job with the cameras and production was Michael Derby. Thanks so much, and good night.